We are facing a changing world, a world in which the hegemony of the old powers is being disputed by new actors. A powerful bloc of resistance is being configured between regions of the world, which seem to be extremely distant, geographically speaking, but in fact are very close because of their willingness for sovereignty and mutual respect for their diverse political and social processes. The very name of this panel calls us all to look back and, based on experiences lived, to project a different present and future for our peoples. U.S. imperialism and its allies have turned the application of economic sanctions and unilateral measures into a common currency to punish countries and their peoples. In this regard, I believe it is appropriate to mention in this forum the experience of my country, a small Caribbean nation which has withstood a strong and hostile economic policy of blockade for more than 60 years, without renouncing ever to our sovereignty, freedom, and self-determination. We have not only faced the negative consequences of that unfair, criminal, and inhuman policy, but also the serious financial limitations that means for Cuba being included in the list of countries that allegedly sponsored terrorism. It is impossible to quantify the human damage generated by this hostile and genocidal policy to all Cuban families. It qualifies as an act of economic war in peacetime. We have also suffered the military occupation of a part of our soil. I am referring to the territory known as the Guantanamo Naval Base, illegally occupied by the United States since 1903 against the willingness of our people. Its permanence over time represents an imposition of the empire and a violation of international law. All this has cost us a lot to defend the social project chosen, which is supported by the majority of the Cuban people. Here we are, fighting against the main enemy of the peoples. We all will continue to do so, being totally aware that Cuba is not and has never been alone. There are many voices in the world that rise in solidarity with our cause and in defense of our legitimate rights. It is a consequence of having practiced international solidarity as an absolute principle of the revolution since its origin. We have practiced selfless medical assistance, sending our health professionals to remote regions of many countries to face diseases, epidemics, and natural disasters, even to countries of the so-called First World, as it was the case of Italy during the COVID-19 crisis. Thousands of doctors, teachers, engineers, and sport coaches from countries with limited resources have been trained free of charge in Cuba, just to mention a few examples, following the moral commitment that once graduated, they go back to their respective countries to contribute to the development and welfare of their people. Being aware that homeland is humanity, as our national hero, Jose Marti, taught us, I take advantage of this space to ratify our support to the just causes of other people around the world. I would like to highlight in a very special way the Palestine and the Sahara's people's struggle. Nothing can justify in this 21st century the brutality taking place in Palestine, the murder of thousands of civilians, mostly children, women, and the elderly, the destruction of homes, hospitals, and civilian infrastructures, and the forced displacement of a great mass of human beings. It is imperative to act immediately and struggle and fight for a permanent ceasefire, and when it becomes true, to allow delivering of humanitarian aid to Gaza Strip without any conditions at all. Taking into account the current international situation and the challenges existing, we must all close ranks. I mean social activists, NGOs, peace organizations, women's organizations, trade unions, etc., and carry out actions that contribute to strengthen peace, justice, and sovereignty of nations all over the world. There won't be peace in the world as long as there are weapons pointing against people. There won't be peace in the world as long as there is interference in internal affairs of countries. There won't be peace in the world as long as there are looting wars. Peace is intimately linked to people's sovereignty and self-determination and respect. We firmly believe that the existence of foreign military bases and the defense of peace are not compatible at all. It is imperative to put an end to the expansion of NATO, as well as to advocate for the dissolution of such an aggressive political military bloc, which is the main responsible for the increasing of the arms race and the militarization that sweeps the globe today. NATO and its allies, under the pretext of protecting human rights or fighting terrorism, have committed several crimes against mankind. Serbia is a vivid example of this. Let me reiterate our position of principles in support of the territorial integrity of this country and its right to keep sovereignty over Kosovo and Metohija, in correspondence with international law and the Charter of the United Nations. Friends, we have a moral commitment, and according to it, we must act. We are not inferior to anyone in our fighting capacity, courage, talent, and virtues. On the contrary, we must continue working together, fighting for a world of peace, a world without war and conflicts. Thank you very much.